The Worlds is over. We have our champion, Jean-Emmanuel Duprat, outshine the popular Esper mid-range deck with Esper Legends in a shocking final round. However, that really wasn't even the biggest surprise to come out of Worlds this past weekend. We have Worlds to discuss, but more importantly, we also have Standard's future on the line. And let's face it, we're living in an MTG world where EDH, Modern, Pioneer, these formats tend to dominate discussion, with Standard traditionally considered the flagship format and also traditionally considered an on-ramp for beginner players to get into competitive play. You would think revitalizing it would be at the front of Wizards' priority list. How can this be done? Should it be done? Today, I have a panel here to discuss this with us. Welcome, everyone, to the MTG Rebelcast, episode 22. I'm your host, Max Damage. Let's get right into it. We have a wonderful panel of guests here. Let's introduce everybody first, and then we'll jump into it. We have Darth Rictus of the Dark Stream. How are you today?
Heyo, not too shabby. We're ready to rock. Let's do this.
Oh yeah. We have Perudabo. Perudabo, how are you feeling?
I am jam up and ripping.
I love it. Love the energy. Griffin Rider MTG, how are you feeling?
I'm great. After that weekend, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, me too. We have Luis with us as well. Luis is somebody who's frequented our streamer showdowns, has been on the podcast before. Luis, how are you today?
Hey, what's up? Fine, thank you, Max. How are you doing?
I am doing great. We just recorded the State of the Meta, me and Darth Rictus, and we had to track quite a few decks. We had to track quite a few victories and losses, and talk about all of that and more. And it was, I have to say, after going over this past weekend's events, I am more than thrilled to dip my toes back into Paper Magic personally, because I think it's just a ripe environment. After the pandemic, it's been long enough to get back into Paper MTG, but we'll get to all of that. I wanted to start the discussion today by asking you guys about the Standard announcement. The Standard announcement that not a lot of people apparently knew existed. We all saw Worlds, but apparently everybody went to the bathroom or took a snack break during that part. So I think, let me try to pull it up, actually. That would have been a good thing to prep, was to pull it up beforehand, right? But we have Wizards announcing basically that they're going to revitalize Standard, that they're going to take some initiative and try to bring the flagship format back. So I have here sort of just the summary of that announcement. Let's talk about what this announcement contained, right? It all basically starts at the LGS level. They're going to be hosting Standard Showdowns weekly. Special promos, prizes, art, beautiful arts on different promotional cards, perhaps. Brings back memories a little bit of how things used to be when they used to give away more product. Store championships featuring Standard Constructed. That's, to me, a huge first step, starting with the release of Lost Caverns of Ixalan. And then for the level above that, at the qualifier level, you get your chance at $75,000 in the Standard Open at MagicCon Chicago in February 2024, hopefully setting a precedent for future events at future conventions. So, look, they're going to be pushing Standard on the Pro Tour as well. Talk to us, Peridabo, first. What are your takeaways from this announcement as a player yourself, and what do you see for the community? You see anything changing as a result of this announcement?
Well, I mean, I'm excited that they're putting effort into actually getting people back into chairs other than our computers, and I really hope it does take off. As somebody that wasn't playing Paper that time, I'm trying to get back into it. So the fact they're going to push more Friday Night Magic, more Standard specifically, I'm really excited about it. I'm hoping it takes off, man. I want to get to Friday Night Magic. So I want to have that little community of people that I know are going to be there. I want to have that little rivalry with people from my neighborhood, like just to have more people to play with other than just playing people that I'll never meet that are just going to spam emotes or just I want to see
Oh
it
man.
happen, man. I really hope that the efforts they put into it pan out in the end. I guess we're just gonna have to see. I'll be there.
Yeah. I used to be a standard grinder myself, so I'm looking forward to it and hoping that it causes more standard Friday Night Magics to fire. That's honestly what I'm looking forward to. Griffin Rider, what are your takeaways about standard? I know that you play other formats as well, so how do you think standard's going to compare and fare in comparison to some of these other formats that see play all the time?
I'd really love to see standard come back in paper, but the word I'm hearing from LGS owners
Mm-hmm.
across the country is that this isn't a 3 to 6 month plan that's going to revitalize standard. Like WotC kind of ruined standard play over the last few years, and it's going to take years to build that back. Like I know they want to do it and get it ready for Pro Tour Chicago, but I don't see it happening in that time frame.
Yeah, and a lot of people share that opinion, both traditional social media and people writing articles, people just commenting from the outside as journalists are also saying the same thing. So you're among good company with that opinion. Darth Rictus, you're someone who has kept track of the way Wizards has treated its formats, how it's treated standard. You were there in the glory days. You know what it was like. You can talk to us a little bit about that. Is this gonna bring back any of those glory days?
God, I've never felt so old in my life as you telling me I was there for the glory days, Max.
I gotta keep it
In
real.
the beginning.
Right. In the before four times when standard was the good, we had this glorious era, and I see what they're trying to do here, and I respect that they're making an effort, but it's symbolism over substance to a degree. If they really wanted to revitalize standard, they have the ability to print and give boxes to LGSs to bolster paper consumption so quickly. And if anybody's sitting there going, well, no, that'll cost them a lot of money, it'll cost them pennies. They pay pennies for those boxes and they could just ship them. And I know this because I was part of the JSS circuit once upon a time. And when you won a JSS tourney, they handed you a box every 3 months for free for a year. And that would revitalize standard. If you start having these championships and you're like, okay, if you win your store championship, a box for every month or every set release for the next year is yours. I would come back and play paper standard, and that's all they have to do. And again, it's pennies for them to do it. So what I see here is a lot of symbolism over substance, where they're saying, "Hey, we're going to make standard great again," and you're like, "Are you though? Are you though? Or are you going to give us pieces of what we remember to try to use that nostalgia to lure us back in?" It's hard to say. It's hard to say. Maybe it'll improve.
Yeah.
This might just be the first step, and it might just keep improving. But historically speaking, that has not been the case. So we'll wait. We'll see.
Yeah. Oh man, you gotta keep it real here. That's what the folks love us for. And Darth Rictus, you are keeping it real. Not real cynical, not real pessimistic, not real optimistic, just real. And I think that's realistic. I think you might have hit the nail on the head there. I don't know. We'll wait and see. Look, there's a lot to be said about standard, whether from both from the mouths of people who play standard regularly and people who do not. And I think it's a fair assessment to say that the majority of standard players are digital right now. Arena is going to be your number one reason why people are playing standard. I don't think that's a hot take. I don't think that's controversial to say. So I've heard it said, I don't know what my feelings are personally on it, but I've heard it said that in order for standard to really be fixed, they're going to have to fix the card economy and how we onboard players, how we bring in new players to have the cards to be able to play. That's a different problem at each level, right? The older the format gets, but in standard, you would expect that to be the more beginner-friendly format. So I don't know. I want to ask Griffin Rider because Griffin Rider was part of a discussion on that this week. What are your thoughts on the cost of standard cards and the idea that formats like EDH, formats like Legacy, Modern are pulling up the costs of standard cards?
I think when it comes to the financial discussion, if we want to make standard viable for new players, print Shelly into the ground, because our top 2 decks at Worlds, 75% of the cost of those decks is in 4 cards. It's in 4 copies of Shelly. Like, and sure, there's always going to be cards that see play across multiple formats. It's going to drive up cost. But right now, that's the elephant in the room. Like, and it's probably the most played creature in Standard right now.
That's not a hot take either. Very cold take there. How brave of you. If it's not Sheldred, it's Beseech the Sheldred. But anyway. No, I think you're right. I think a lot of the cost is concentrated, even in Standard, especially in Standard, in a handful of very valuable cards, very widely played cards. We're looking at an MTG top 8. We're looking at, some of the best decks from Worlds. We're looking at, the top 8 results here. And, right, so many of these decks are black-based. Some of these decks are going to feature 4 copies of Shelly, 4 copies of Rafine, 4 copies of Leyline Binding, whatever their key cards are. And those are the staples. So I don't know about the argument that EDH is causing these cards to go up in price. You only need 1 copy. The community is very proxy friendly. But certainly some of these cards have filtered down into the more eternal, more forever formats, the more non-rotating formats. So there's something to be said about the cost of Standard. Darth Rictus, you're proxy friendly. It's safe to say. What are your thoughts on the financial economy in MTG? Is it really just a financer's game? Are those the only people worried about the cost, the reserve list? What do common players think? What does everybody else think?
So I think that Arena introduced us the idea that Magic could be more like game pieces. And instead of looking at specific cards and valuing them higher, we could just, a wild card is any card. So all cards in the card economy are the same until you get to the secondary market. There is no secondary market on Arena. So it introduced this wild concept that you could just craft what you wanted, play what you wanted. And then people go to paper and they're like, it's how much for Shelly? $80 pop? Go fuck yourself. I need 4 of them. Like, you can print it into oblivion. That's the best way to do it, frankly. And I agree heavily with that. We've watched that actually with Standard. It used to be that a lot of the rares were very expensive. And then they started doing like all these alternate arts and they printed a lot of these things into oblivion. All of a sudden I can find foils that are the same price as regular cards just because there's been like 8 printings of Thalia. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would go with that. Just print everything into oblivion until it's essentially just a game piece you have to collect instead of a flagship mythic that they promised us they wouldn't do this with. They promised us with mythics they would not have $100 mythics you had to have as staples of a format. And here we are with Sheldred.
Yeah. And I'm just going over some of the other cards in this Esper list that was very popular at Worlds. And I mean, you've got Wandering Emperor. You need 3 of those, and that's a $21 card near mint. Wedding Announcement, that's another staple. The new Virtue of Loyalty, right? $12 card. So yeah, I can see why some people would say, hey, this is a scarcity and an artificial scarcity issue at that. Wow. And it's an argument I've also heard recently too, is that this is actually a design problem, not necessarily a card economy problem or an artificial scarcity issue, but a design issue. And we can point to last year's Worlds where it was Esper, Grixis, or Rakdos, or, some combination of those. And pre-ban, everybody was playing Fable the Mirror Breaker, Invoke Despair. So this is a recent design issue. Do we think it's going to get any better? I mean, we see the way that they're releasing sets, mini sets, trying to diversify where they're going with their card types. Another strand of this argument is, do we need to go back to blocks? Do we need to go back to story arcs that are complete across 3 sets versus just 2 versus just 1? Darth Rictus, I hate to call you old again, man. But you remember back when we had blocks, was this still an issue with Extended, with Standard, where you just had like a few archetypes at the top and that was it? What was Standard like back then?
It really depends on the standard. I mean, it has shifted so much season to season. I got to play at the apex of the best standard I've ever been a part of, and that had like 10 tier 1 decks. You could play fucking anything. It was amazing. There were 3 combo decks, 3 aggro decks, like 2 control decks, and a couple of mid-rangers, and they were all top 8ing regularly. And that was peak standard. But I've also lived through the hell that is older standard, where we had, like severely underpowered sets, and then like Flame Tongue Kavu was an auto 4 of, you know what I mean? Like there's different standards. So it ebbs and flows, and I think that's natural. It just depends on how well the design is thought out and whether or not they make a mistake like, I don't know, Oko.
Good point. That was a recent one too. Oh man. But look what they did. They killed planeswalkers, right? We're only getting 1%, 1% now. Ashio, I mean, they have to make them either really good or like super mediocre. I don't know. Planeswalkers are dead. What does that design what does that do to the design of standard? The fact that you can't rely on these non-creature value engines quite as much anymore. We don't see the Super Friends decks that we used to see. Paradabo, give us your thoughts. What do you think about the fact that they're kind of cutting planeswalkers out of the up and coming sets?
I mean, it'll be interesting. Since I've been playing, there's been planeswalkers, but they're always hit or miss. Like, how many have we got that just don't make the cut for almost anything except for some fun casual build, And even like the one we just got, like I've yet to see her really broken. So I'm really not upset that they are going to be gone. Just means we have to come up with a different way to get our value out of things, whether it be enchantments, which we've seen a ton of lately with the new set, or we just have the man lands now. That's another, I'm really actually happy about that. I love the Golgari man land, and even the Simic one. It's got the trample, man.
Vineyard, yeah.
Yes. And you turn something into 3/3 feels good. But as far as the planeswalkers not being here as much, I'm not upset about it. It's just gonna be different.
Yeah, different for sure. Bye Super Friends decks. It's been a minute for those anyway. All right, let's switch gears here to really Worlds and what we saw went down, how it went down, and what our impressions and thoughts of it are. I want to start with Griffin Rider. Griffin Rider, you watched Worlds. You saw what we saw. What were some of your takeaways in terms of, just things you noticed in the meta shift, what you saw dominate that you didn't expect, anything notable?
I mean, there's the obvious, like Esper is and will continue to be the best color combination in standard for a while. It's got all the tools. Love seeing some of these new takes on domain. We got Bant Control, which made a great appearance. I think there's a lot to build around right now, and we're just seeing the start of it, but we got a taste of it from what was presented at Worlds.
Yeah, we certainly did. Cards like Up the Beanstalk were really the MVPs of the whole thing, like just getting the most attention, new cards. That's going to be packed into domain. It's going to be packed into a new archetype Bant now. Darth Rictus, were there any other notable cards that you think just kind of came out of nowhere that you didn't expect that showed their value?
To me, I didn't really expect to see a Cauldron deck. I thought that was a fluke. Honestly, I remember Griffin telling me about it and like, no, this is a real deck. And I'm like, yeah, sure it is. Like there's no fucking way. And then sure enough, it gets 9th place on Breakers, which might as well have been a top. You know what I mean? Like literally just percentage points away from a top 8, not regular match points. So Cauldron surprised the hell out of me. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, Cauldron surprised a lot of people. I remember the announcers, they were having trouble. Like, they literally had to apologize on camera. They were like, I apologize. I don't have a lot to say about this deck. I've never played with it. So I've never seen it. So it was interesting to see at Worlds a brand new archetype. I mean, like, that's bold. That's ballsy right there. I have to say, I have to give credit there.
I was amazed that it was worth the splash for pretty much the one card, sort of the charm.
Yeah.
To actually throw the green in there and it pay off like it did. Just to watch him continuously draw, and like the announcers were saying, he's never not had 6 cards in his hand,
Yeah,
like,
I remember that.
Just it shows what that card is capable of, that you're willing to go ahead and add a third color solely for that. That was fun to watch. As much as it can be boring to see control or have to face it, the fact that thing was as effective as it was pretty interesting.
That's the way in which control can be fun, right? And this is coming from somebody who probably plays the control archetype the least. Is when you can draw a ton of cards, have a ton of resources at the ready, and be able to respond to anything your opponent throws at you. That is fun on its own level. Yeah, very cool. Wow. I really want to try out this Bant list. Me and Darth Rictus are talking about testing me using sort of an iteration of Bant where it focuses more on tokens. But of course, when you add something, it's like alchemy. When you add something, you take something away. You can't, something is gained, something is lost. So who knows? We'll see if this presents more opportunities to build either a Bant list or cards with Up the Beanstalk. I mean, outside of Bant, Up the Beanstalk is now going to be in domain piles as well. So definitely one of the more important cards of Worlds. Let's introduce a new segment to round out our podcast today. With World Championship basically in the rearview mirror, it's time to introduce a new segment that we've entitled Card of the Week. Now, instead of simply giving you my card of the week, we're going to ask our Rebellion member guest to tell us their favorite card of the week and tell us why. Luis Dragon, we're going to throw you in the hot seat first. Luis, what is your card of the week that you saw play, and tell us why?
It's an easy one. Up to Beanstalk.
Yeah.
Going to the release choice, but yeah, I mean, it was very impressive how it really worked. So I think that's the new surprise of this week.
Absolutely. Good choice. All right. So let's we've already kind of talked about Up the Beanstalk. We've sung its praises today. I can tell you this, I know Griffin Rider's not going to be playing this version of this deck, at least with the 3 Hornlock whales. You want to tell us why, Griffin Rider?
It's no secret at this point. I very much have an issue with the art on this card.
Yeah,
I cannot support any attack on my kinfolk.
No, he looks so helpless. It's just he looks defenseless. It's terrible. Like he just came upon that. He didn't ask for that fight. That whale came at him.
He didn't instigate. He was just flying on by the pond, probably trying to stop and have a drink, catch his breath before he took off again. And here comes this aggressive, horny whale. Yeah.
I mean, maybe if Griffins had grown up in Florida, they'd understand you don't go to the edge of the water. That's where all bad things happen.
That's a whole nother problem with gators. Oh my god. Oh man, you don't want to mess around in Florida when it comes to bodies of water. You tell me that all the time, Dabo.
It's true. There ain't a week that goes by that it's not a headline somewhere.
All right. Well, I think that's a pretty well-packed episode. We got to discuss Worlds. Let's go ahead and give our final thoughts on anything and everything from this week of Magic. We'll start with Darth Rictus of the Dark Stream. Go ahead and tell us what your final thoughts on everything are.
I would say don't underestimate how badly you're going to need enchantment removal moving forward. There's going to be Up the Beanstalks up your ass, and there are going to be leyline bindings everywhere. Get ready for it. Prepare. Things that kill enchantments are going to matter. The fact that Golgari has many answers to this and is well positioned to also remove artifacts permanently, allowing you to push the Soul Cauldron decks back. That's where I'll be investigating.
Yeah. Pay attention to the state of the meta that is probably releasing if you're watching the premiere right after this. If not, go check out the MTG Rebellion YouTube channel and see why Darth Rictus is saying that. Thank you, Darth Rictus. Griffin Rider, go ahead and give us your final thoughts, takeaways from this past week.
Yep. Now through our next Standard Pro Tour, I'm going to be watching. I'm going to be rooting for Jim Davis. Both Minneapolis and over the weekend, we saw strong day ones out of him, and just need to see him carry that over into day two. And we could be talking about him being on top of this game as far as Standard is concerned.
Yeah, that white human stack, don't sleep on it. Really, don't. We talk about that as well in the state of the meta. So go check that out. Go hear why that is going to be one of the decks that I personally recommend y'all go and try out. All right, Peridabo, what are your final takeaways from this past week of Magic?
My takeaways consist of the fact that I was wrong. The turtle is in Golgari for a reason. I didn't feel like it was personally, but it showed that it's there. And yeah, turtle.
The turtle is here. Oh, man.
And if you want to beat Esper, you have to also play Esper.
Ooh, yeah. I really didn't see Esper Legends coming out on top. That I did not see that coming. I thought it was going to be Golgari or Domain. Those are my two. I thought it was going to be a Golgari Domain final, but that did not come to pass. Oh, man. All right. Luis, give us your final thoughts on this past week in Magic.
For the Worlds, I think we are going to see more Golgari because the ability to take out enchantments. So let's get Vantage Thunder and listen Slayer.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And everybody forgets about this mode, removing the 3 counters.
Yeah.
Like that helps make Liliana a little less relevant. Also, all the tokens out there. That's my final thought, y'all, is beware the token decks. They're out in full force. The go wide strategies are out in full force, and it makes all this 1-to-1 removal that we've been seeing lately just a little bit less relevant. So think about value in your removal. Think about more board wipes. All right, that's it. We're out of time from all of us here at the MTG Rebellion. Don't forget, untap, upkeep, resist.
Resist.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.